and welcome back to another episode of Level Up Your Mental. My name is Ariel, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. And so, as a licensed mental health counselor, I will always advocate for therapy or something that will be able to allow you to focus on the things that you have been through, things that are either currently happening to you, things that have happened to you before, and how these things continue to affect you in the sense of how you let them, or things that you just haven't addressed and they are coming up in other ways that continue to affect you subconsciously. And so one of the things that I always see is there is this term of therapy versus survival. A lot of people say that they are just surviving, right? They are taking things day by day. They're doing the things that they need to do in order to just make it through, right? And a lot of that I've seen comes back into dealing with painful things that they have been through in life and not wanting to address them because they're so painful. And I would rather just keep going on with everything that I have continued to either build for myself, or how I have made my life comfortable or have made my life okay to deal with, and I just don't address those things that have happened in the past. And if I do bring up stuff that have happened to me in the past, I will do other things to kind of suppress it, kind of downplay it, or push it to the side and just act like it didn't happen. But in instances for myself as a therapist, I have seen it come up in other areas for people, and a lot of time it takes a little bit of work to be able to have people connect the two and just see you not addressing this thing is why certain things are coming up. You not addressing this specific behavior is the reason why you keep attracting certain people in your life. You not addressing these things is the reason why you respond to things the way that you do. You not addressing this thing is the reason why in certain situations you automatically feel tense, you have anxiety, you don't know how to respond. And a lot of it is connected to either something that you had previously went through, something that you had witnessed, whatever the case may be. It sometimes will be connected to something that if you just took the time to sit there and really address it and see how it affected you, then you can build the right tools to be able to go through life and not let this thing continue to affect you in a way that comes up as negative. So I think for some people, survival mode is basically urgency, being hyper vigilant and just constantly I'm doing stuff in order to not have to sit and think about what's going on. I'm just going to keep moving, right? And so when we talk about healing and what that goes back to when we are talking about therapy, it's talking about slowing down, right? It's about feeling, processing, being able to address things and look at things from a different lens than the way that you've been doing it before. And for some people that is very scary, rightfully so. We all don't want to sit in emotions that make us very uncomfortable, and things that just make us feel like not the way that we want to feel, right? And so I bring up this quote from Antonieta Contreras. She has a book out called How Deep is the Wound? And it's a guide to investigating, understanding, and resolving your emotional pain. And I have not read it, but I thought that this quote from it was very important, and I will tag the book in the bio below. But I thought that it was important that she said, the dangerous confusion between normal stress responses and chronic dysfunction is keeping people trapped in unnecessary suffering. And that is something that I truly agree with. I know a lot of people that are either people that are in my life, people that I've seen online, or whatever the case may be, that they have said themselves that they have been through something that is traumatic, or something that was negative in their life, and they never really addressed it. But in the ways that they function, in the ways that they communicate, you can clearly see that this thing is continuing to affect them. And so when we look at survival, is basically saying keep going or something bad will happen. For a lot of people, that's really how they feel. And with healing, what we're saying is that it's safe to pause. It's okay to just take a beat for a moment and just see what you've been through, acknowledge that, address it, work through it, and basically build the tools that you need to make sure that you don't allow this thing to happen again or to affect you to the point that, it's stressing you on a regular basis. And so I want people to understand that your brain doesn't switch modes off easily, right? It protects what it knows. So a lot of times when it comes to trauma and things that we haven't addressed, even just the littlest things that will happen in our life, or if we're in specific places, it can trigger, these things to come back up again, or even to just have you relive that moment because you never actually sat down and broke it down and tried to figure out what it is that was so triggering and how to be able to move, on from that. And that's not saying that, we want you to forget everything that you've been through. We want you to process it so that you understand why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, and you don't have to keep responding in the way that you are currently responding, right? And so the first thing I want to talk about is why healing feels unsafe. For a lot of people, familiar pain feels safer than unknown peace, right? So your chaos becomes your baseline. That is where you feel comfortable. That is how you function. Stuff outside of that just feels weird for you because it's not what you're used to. And sometimes, being calm feels wrong, or it feels suspicious. Like, why do I feel just so comfortable being in this silence, or whatever the case may be? It doesn't feel right. And, that is an exhausting way to continue to process things, because our bodies do need moments of feeling safe, of feeling calm. To be constantly in a state of survival, as we're talking about, can be very exhausting, not only for your mental but for your physical, if you're constantly just moving around trying to get through things. And so we have to understand that your nervous system is conditioned for threats, right? Even when your life is stable, your body expects danger. Your nervous system is conditioned to feel threats. That's really what you've been relying on, is just looking around in a constant state of like something could happen. And so when life is stable, your body is just expecting danger, because that's the thought process that you've been having in your head this whole entire time. Even resting can trigger anxiety instead of relief. And again, that is very exhausting. And then you also tend to identify to productivity or struggles, right? So if I'm not pushing, who am I? If I'm not working down to the bone, doing what I need to do, then what am I really doing? That is the way that I identify. And, letting go of survival mode can feel like you're losing yourself. You have been conditioned in this way, or have made yourself in this way to respond to things the way that you've been doing. And so doing anything outside of that feels completely different. And I think that that's something that a lot of people go through, but I don't think they understand how detrimental that can be to yourself, to your body, sometimes even to the people that are around you, if you're just on constant go. And so I think the other thing of healing feeling unsafe is that sometimes being still brings up suppressed emotions. And a lot of people is like, I don't want to feel those. I don't want to feel that emotion. A lot of people, it's not normal for them. That's not what they grew up on. I know for myself, coming from a Caribbean background, a black or brown background, they don't really talk about emotions. It's not something where your parents sit down and say, okay, you're feeling this way. Okay, this is how you respond to that. No, we kind of just learn to just keep it moving. And it's not to say that your parents didn't love you or whatever the case may be. It's just, again, how they were conditioned. And so this is how they respond. But I don't think that's something that you have to continue on. Again, this goes back to breaking that generational curse, that generational trauma of just understanding emotions and not suppressing them. Because you have to understand, like, for yourself right now, you think, when you stop, everything you avoided shows up, and you don't want to deal with that. And as long as you go and you never actually sit down, you will never have to address that. And I think people have to understand that it's okay to sit down and address things. It's okay to process things, and it'll do your future so much better, especially for the people around you and especially for your kids. Like, you want your kids to get the best version of you, not the version of you that is trying to function while having all this stuff going on in the background. And so I think understanding that healing is very important, because it will give you the future that you deserve, and it'll let the people around you understand, why you've been functioning the way that you have, and give you a moment to be able to start things off on a good foot and just start over and be able to not forget about all those things that happened, because nobody can ever take those away from you. But understand that you've been through these things, but you can't let them keep you trapped or keep you, onto a hold where you feel like you're not doing the best that you can, right? And so I think for a lot of people, they go back to that thought process of, why do you feel guilty when you rest? A lot of times guilt is often learned either from whatever it is that you've been through. A lot of times it's passed down from generations, from parents, because that's how they functioned. That's how they did things in their life. They kind of just kept it moving, pushed things in the back. And I think for a lot of people with family culture and things like that, if you're resting, that means that you're lazy, that you have time to get things done, and that you should not be able to have that. And I think that also ties into your self-worth. A lot of times I will dig down into someone's brain of, okay, if I'm not doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing, if I am sitting down sleeping or whatever, that means that I have time to get this and this done. And since I'm not doing that, then that does not make me feel good as a person. Or, sometimes the fear of falling behind or losing control. And I think the thing is, we have to learn how to change our mindset and understand that it's okay to take rest. And I'm not saying that you have to rest for days on days, but there are moments where you might need to take some extra days off. There are moments where you might need to take the afternoon off. Whatever can fit into your schedule, it's important to take breaks. Your body needs that rest. Your body needs to restart and do everything that it needs to do. But if you're constantly on go, you're not going to be able to perform 100% or to the ability that you want to be and how you want to show up. So taking those breaks are very important, but you have to learn how to reframe your brain and understand that rest isn't a reward, it's a requirement. Our bodies need to rest mentally and physically. And then also, your body isn't fighting you, it's trying to reset you. Your body wants you to relax. You can't keep pushing things, just saying, okay, I can do it. Yeah, mentally you might think that you can, but a lot of times your body is telling you what you can and cannot do. And I think for a lot of people, it's hard for them to take a step back, but it is important to just look at yourself and look at what your body needs and making sure that you're putting that, into the forefront. So how do you start resting without guilt? The first thing is to start off small. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. This is something new. This is something that you have to get adjusted to, and something that you have to practice at, right? So try to take little breaks throughout the day. I work from home, and so I have to take breaks from the computer, or else mentally it would drain me. So I try to take 5 to 10 minute breaks. Go outside if I can. Try to read a book, try to listen to music. Just give yourself some type of break that doesn't require anything like looking at your phone or anything like that. Like genuinely giving your brain a break to just relax, right? And then to just normalize discomfort instead of avoiding it. Understand that you are going to have moments in your life where you are going to be uncomfortable, where you might have to take accountability for something that was embarrassing, or you just have to be able to address something that you've been avoiding. Because a lot of times I try to tell people that you avoid, eventually it's going to come back up. The other thing is you have to expect the resistance, right? Like I said, this is something that is new to you. So feeling uneasy doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It's gonna feel uneasy at first. It's gonna feel weird because it's not something that you're used to, but that doesn't mean that you stop. That doesn't mean that you just completely give up. It just means that your body is just adjusting to something new. It's the same thing like when you're working out for the first time and your body is sore and it hurts and you just, I don't want to do this anymore. Your body is adjusting, right? Those muscles are getting stronger. Same thing with your brain and everything that's going on. You are adjusting to what is going on. So it's going to take a little bit, but you don't want to give up at the moment of when it gets hard. Because again, you're going to go through other moments in your life in the future where you're going to be uncomfortable and you want to know how to address those things appropriately. The other thing is like separate rest from earning, right? You don't have to earn rest. I don't want people to understand that you have to go through all this stuff in order to relax. As a human being, yes, we have to wake up and we have things that we need to do, whether you're a parent, whether, it's for your career, whatever the case may be. Yes, we all have expectations of us and things that we have to do, but that doesn't mean that you don't need to deserve rest, right? It doesn't mean that I have to go through all of this stuff in order for me to rest. No, you did the most that you can today and you deserve to relax. Your brain does need a break, right? So try to change that thought process of rest supports productivity. In order for you to show up 100% and do the best thing that you can in life, you have to show up well rested and make sure that you're getting the most that you can, and that brings me back into things that people used to say online that they still say now is like, I'm earning money while you're sleeping, or whatever the case may be, in the sense of people are working 10 times harder while you're taking a nap. Or while you're sleeping. At the end of the day, if that's how people choose to live their life, but I do think that, again, it is important that your body and your brain gets the rest that it needs so that you can show up how you want to. The last thing that you want is to show up, sleep deprived and not be able to give you the best version of yourself in whatever form that is. And so, the other thing is like being able to confront that guilt and talk back to that guilt and just be like, nothing bad is gonna happen, I'm safe. Replaying that in your mind of just, I'm gonna be fine, it's okay to take a break, I'm allowed to rest, I will be able to accomplish that tomorrow. Setting up plans for yourself and understanding that I'm gonna give myself the rest of the day to relax, because you are allowed to do that, and those thoughts are going to come up. And so being able to counter those thoughts and then say, nothing bad is going to happen, I'm safe, or even this discomfort will pass. I just started this thing, I'm only a couple days in, a week in. It's not going to just completely absolve itself. I'm going to still have those negative thoughts, but I have to push through it, and I have to keep practicing this thing so that it becomes normal, and that is not something completely odd for me to do. And then the last thing would be, redefine productivity. Understand that healing is productive. It is productive to heal. It is a process and it is important. And then also slowing down, prevents burnout later. For us as therapists, we take burnout very important. Just even in careers in general, we see people every day, we talk to them, and we try to get them the help that they need. And that takes a lot of energy from us, just from caring and doing research and making sure that we're staying up on stuff. And so I need to take breaks. I need to be able to rest. I need to know to slow down when I need to slow down, and to be able to just give myself a moment so I can show up for the next group of people in the best way possible, and show up for myself, right? And so with all of these steps, just understand that you're not bad at resting, right? You were just never taught how to feel safe doing it. And understand that it's okay to change. It's going to take a little bit to change, and it's okay if you mess up. Just understand that you have to keep pushing forward, and the things that you have been through won't just disappear, and you won't just be absolved of them. They're always going to be there, but it's just a matter of how you respond and making sure that your body is getting the amount of rest that it needs to, so that you can show up and not have to feel like you have to survive every day. Make sure you get that healing, make sure you get the help that you need so that you can process things and show up as a better version and a great version of yourself, not only for you, but for the people around you. And so I want to thank you guys for watching another video. I will continue on these topics, especially for the month of May, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.